2018's God of War was a very, 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 very good game. Some might even say it was a masterpiece. So, needless to say, Sony Santa Monica has their work cut out for them in the inevitable sequel. There's not a lot in God of War that needs much improvement, but there are certain things that seem pretty reasonable to expect. So, with that in mind, here are 5 things we want in God of War 2. Or God of War 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Well, whatever the sequel to the latest God of War ends up being called. Warning, spoilers ahead. Number 1, a bridging of the gap. God of War 2018 told a mostly self-contained tale that referenced Kratos' storied past and at times brushed up against it, but didn't really spend much time connecting the wrath-fueled fire and brimstone Kratos of Greece with the more mellowed out version that we find in Norway. These still feel like 2 completely different characters, so hopefully, the story of the next God of War game dives a little deeper into how Kratos ended up going from dying on a cliff in a now godless land to somehow making his way all across Europe to start a new life in the land of the Norse gods. Fortunately, with the late game reveal of Kratos' wife being a giant, it seems like flashbacks that cover their relationship are a no-brainer at this point. Number 2, more big boss fights. The original God of War games were not only built on incredible combat, but also on the quality of their boss battles, many of which were absolutely epic in scale, and often could be considered levels onto themselves. We got a bit of that in God of War 2018 in the form of the short but oh so sweet dragon boss battle, but for the most part, the boss fights felt like battles against really tough normal enemies that would occasionally be interrupted by a breathtaking cutscene.
You talk too much.
Don't get me wrong, the Baldur fights are all amazing, and big boss battles shouldn't come at the expense of the smaller scale set-piece driven fights, or super challenging skill tests like the Valkyries. But at the same time, it felt like there was something core to the original God of War games that was missing. Fights like the one against the Hydra in God of War 1, the Colossus of Rhodes in God of War 2, Poseidon in God of War 3, the Hecatonchires in Ascension, and so on. Number 3, balance of the old combat with the new combat. I'd hesitate to fiddle around too much with the next God of War's combat, especially when it comes to the Leviathan Axe, which has become just as iconic of a weapon as the blades were to the original God of War games. But at the same time, it would be nice if the sequel could explore some new combat options, perhaps with some other weapons. One thing that was a big part of the original God of War's combat that wasn't realized in 2018's version is air combos. You could launch opponents into the air, but you couldn't follow them up, smack them around, grab them, bounce them off the floor, smack them around again, and then knock them away. Obviously, this style of combat doesn't fit with the Leviathan Axe, but if the Blades moveset could be adjusted to accommodate a more aerial type of offense, well, that would be an awesome throwback to the days of yore. Beyond that though, I hope we get to see something completely new. A weapon that provides an alternative to combat that does something that neither the Blades nor the Leviathan Axe can do. Number 4, unlock the other realms. One of the biggest teases in God of War 2018 was the ability to look at the realm map in the Bifrost and see all 9 realms, but then only being able to really explore 3 of them: Midgard, Helheim, and Alfheim. Muspelheim was essentially just a series of combat challenges, Niflheim was only home to a loot-centric roguelike maze, and Jotunheim was a barren wasteland that only served as a setting for the game's ending. That leaves 3 completely unexplored realms left: Vanaheim, Svartalfheim, and of course, Asgard. It doesn't seem like much of a stretch to believe that we'll get to visit all 3 of these, especially Vanaheim and Asgard, considering the unfinished business that both Freya and Thor have with Kratos. Number 5, New Game Plus and bonus costumes at launch. One of the few problems with God of War 2018 at launch was that after you beat the game, there wasn't much more to do. Sure, you could hunt down the Valkyries, which provided a nice endgame challenge, but there was no real motivating reason to play through the game again. It took 3 months after launch for New Game Plus to be added, but hopefully with the blueprint now in place, New Game Plus can be a feature right from the start. Also, bring back the bonus costumes. What greater incentive to play the game again is there than having another go-around with Kratos dressed as a businessman? And those are 5 things that we hope to see in the next God of War. What would you like to see? Let us know in the comments. And of course, for more God of War, you can check out our review. Thanks for watching, and for everything else, keep it here on IGN.